Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Mac. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links to everything discussed can be found in the description below, so let's get on with it. This week we got to see the Prospector in action, how the Hornet has changed over the years, plus a cool new FPS weapon concept image. So just as a quick heads up, patch 2.6.1 has now been released to the live branch. With this patch comes lots and lots of bug fixing, but more importantly, updates like the multi-regional servers, meaning that you won't have a ping way into the hundreds. More regions will open up as time goes on and, as and when they need them. But finally, the Super Hornet has had a revamp. It is looking very, very cool. I will do a separate video on this, taking a look further in closer detail, testing it out. So do subscribe for that. So in this week's Star Citizen newsletter, which is the email we get every week, he started off by mentioning about the release of 2.6.1 and Spectrum. With 2.6.1, most of the changes are under the hood, especially the multi-regional servers. These are only small patches, like small fixes, but the regional servers are very important. Work does continue on 3.0 and Squadron 42 and then beyond. The 2.6.2 patch will continue laying groundwork for these milestones. I also made it onto the newsletter, so way! And also the sneak peek this week from this newsletter was the Gemini S71 ballistic assault rifle with integrated sight. It looks fantastic. They say it's sleek, but probably quite costly. Anyway, that was the newsletter. Let's get on to ATV. So in Around the Verse this week, Chris Roberts is back from Europe. He said they have pushed ahead on new systems needed for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen 3.0. He also mentioned they will show off some of the highlights from these studios over the next few weeks. 2.6.1 and the Spectrum is now live. It is now out to every backer. I am working on the Spectrum video as right now, but obviously Star Citizen Sunday gets preference. So that will be up probably Monday. For the UK studio tour, they showed us a medium-sized shield generator, a storage module. Now, I don't think the storage module is for your cargo. It's more for ship storage of equipment and a mining console. The visual effects team is working on the Dragonfly damage, which is looking just so awesome at the moment. But we also got to see the Bayring P8 SE rifle, which looks more like an assault rifle. Very much a rapid fire and obviously destroys a Dragonfly quite easy, which is good to see. They also are working on an in-fiction magazine cover. This shows the depth and the level of detail they're going to populate the world. It will be great if they do actually have these magazines to read in the verse, but obviously getting things finished first is more priority. Anyway, from there we saw an internal Stanton map. Now this is very, very cool. I will see if it's possible to get a full version of this map to check it out and maybe do a separate video on, but you can see all the different items that will be populating the Stanton system in 3.0. Including the asteroids, nebulas, satellites, which we also got to see them making good progress. They are making great progress on 3.0. You can see it. Unfortunately, they're just not revealing everything every day. So we're getting little snippets rather than full ideas of what's going on. But it is definitely moving on. After this, we had a ship shape, which showed us the new version of the Super Hornet for 2.6.1. Now, the original Hornet was from 2012, and it's got its name from the Wing Commander Hornet called the F-36 Hornet. Compare it to the 2012 version. The new version now is very, very nice. Every year, nearly every year, they've had to update it due to the updates in the technology and the methods in which they use to create these ships. Now, this isn't a new Hornet. Obviously, there is a new Hornet, which is the F-7A, which is sort of, think of it as the Mark II, the 2948 version, or the 2018 version, rather than this version. This is just a revamp to get tech like the damage system and item 2.0 plus the components and things all working together. We got to see a little snippet from 2012 to 2017. It is amazing the work they're doing on this ship. And these updates are very important because obviously if we had the 2012 Hornet today, it would just look awful. After this, they had a big talk about the cloud architecture and in particular the multi-region servers. I suggest watching this video yourself. I will timestamp it so that you can find it easier because they explain it a lot better and a lot further than I can. But the gist of it is they were thinking about where to place physical servers. Obviously, physical servers are very expensive. They need heavy maintenance. Obviously, if one goes down, it's not a simple case of switching a new one on. They have to make sure that they've got plenty in reserve. With cloud servers, you only rent and buy what you need. If one goes down, it just rolls over to the next one, and there's a very little downtime for it. They're very reliable, and in that sense, they can't technically break, because obviously if one does go down, they'll just roll it over, so there's no time lost. The other good thing is that cloud servers can be set up anywhere. It's not a case of physically taking a computer or a server and plugging it in somewhere around in the world. They can literally just start them up anywhere where they're available. They can also scale up or scale down as many as they need. So if there's a lot of people playing at one time, whereas you find on a lot of games when they're first launched, there's a big influx of people and the servers crash because they can't handle it, so you can't get onto a game. With this, and people just can't get onto games because there's not enough servers. With this, they can actually just scale them up and down as and when people are playing. So if there is a lot more people joining than they expected, they'll just spark up a couple more and there you go. But when developing the Hangar module, which I think was 2013, there were very few players. Now there's obviously 1.7 million. Back then, they were in the hundreds of thousands. If they had one computer running it all, and they knew the game builds and more players would join, so they were thinking they would need maybe a room full of these computers to play it. The cloud architecture just removes all the physical needs for computers. It is all cloud-based, all internet-based. As I say, do check out the interview if you want to see more on it. I'll link it in the description. When it comes to multi-region servers, since Star Marine, they obviously needed multi-region servers. It's very imperative, especially for FPS. But the current region is in Virginia. They'll be adding Frankfurt and then Sydney, and they are ready to expand. And we can expect to see servers all over the world. They say the sky's the limit. There's a clip here of where these servers are going to be, or where they are, and then where they're going to be. So always expanding there. So if you live even in the fringes of the world, you will still be able to find a server that isn't going to be giving you 400 ping. And finally, to finish off with this ATV, they revealed the Prospector. Now this is just incredible. I will do a separate video on this, just talking about what we saw and what we can expect with mining. It may not be a long video because it was only a 2-minute reveal, but it is looking fantastic. Anyway, that was ATV, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Let's move on. So this week's Star Citizen Happy Hour, the CIG dev was Will Weisbaum, who is a senior writer, and the community guest was Clifford aka Miku. Good job, sir. Another member of the Redacted team. They played Last Stand and then a bit of Pirate Swarm, but the first question was, how do the Zhaan feel about spicy food? And apparently it's not to do with taste. They taste things differently to humans. It's more to do with texture. They like a lot of rotting plants and food that gives feelings, so like tingly foods or prickly. Next question also about the Zhaan is to do with their appendices, so their hands, the way they grip things, what's happening with them, because we haven't seen them yet. And they're still designing this. They can't say too much as they are working it out, but they will have a different way of holding their weapons. Anyway, moving on swiftly, what are the pop stars of the verse or the famous people? Can you go into detail? And there's actually a fictitious post called Star Watch, which they bring out every so often, maybe once a month, which highlights some of the celebrities of the verse. So I do suggest reading them. But we also have some bands in the verse. You can buy t-shirts from Grimhex. And there are posters around Echo 11 in 2.6.1, which highlight some of the bands who are sort of known in the verse. They are actually working out which band it was that wrote the music for the Galactic Tour. So it's coming together, but it's not that important. So I'm sure it's on the back burner somewhere. Next question after that is Karak, and basically another question mark. Now it's people are still concerned about this, but obviously he's a writer, so he can't say anything. They did say that the Karak is on the schedule. It's not in active development yet, but it should be coming this year. Anyway, next question. Any special writings for Operation Pitchfork? And if you don't know, Operation Pitchfork is, I think it's a community-made plan where when the game first launches, we're all going to fly to the fringes of Vandal space and repel the Vandal, push them back again and fight back for what they did at Vega 2. Now, they say they are still way off this yet, and that's obvious, but it's all part of how players can affect the verse. So in terms of economy, resources, military action, as they build out the verse narrative, they have these options and they are thinking about how the players will react to it. For example, the election of Suj Kossi. If you were to cut off supplies to his homeland or to the world where he is living, will it affect the election in any way, or will it affect him in any way? So they are looking into this sort of big dynamic changes based around what player actions are, but we'll have to wait and see. So next question, can you describe mission designs? And they say they are working on 3.0 and figuring out the 3.0 missions. Basically, it's a combination of both the lore team and the designers. They pitch ideas for the settings and then get pretty involved trying to figure out the mechanics and what would be involved. They didn't specify what missions there are, but that's kind of how it works. Now, the next question is something that was brought up a long, long while ago, and this is something I wanted to pursue when the verse is finally around, and it's to do with the Artemis. Now, will it be findable? Now, the Artemis is an AI-piloted ship, which was way back when we first started looking for other places to populate other than Earth. And they sent this ship out, which was AI-piloted, but with a human crew to try and find a planet similar to Earth and start populating it. It went wrong. Something went wrong along the way, and it got lost, and no one has ever found it. They found clues and ideas of where it could, snippets of the ship and maybe the black box for the ship, but it's still out there, we don't know where it is, and I intend to find it. Anyway, next question. The galaxy is huge. How is culture broken down? Will the Stanton population behave differently to someone way over on the other side? Now, he says that because communication is pretty good across systems, trends can travel fast. It's not like we don't know what's happening in another planet, but it is not real-time communication. You'll have to send a drone to go from one end to the next. So there is a slight lag in getting information back. So there will be certain differences, maybe in a character's clothing, and also NPC behaviours. They say they will look into possible differences once they've figured out how to populate the universe properly. Version 2 of the NPCs will get more specific, sort of, what each group of people are talking about and so forth, but that will likely be a later job. So, moving on. Will players be able to build a name for themselves as, say, an entrepreneur? And he says that you will be able to build your rep. If as an entrepreneur, for example, people will begin to trust you more, they would recognize you and give you better deals, but it's going to be too difficult to get NPCs to talk directly about you. So more they will react to you rather than verbally say things. So the next question was to do with the next concept sale, and it is the Hurricane. It is coming next week from today. They don't know a price yet, but the narrative team has been working on the brochure. That's quite exciting. It'll be interesting to see more about this. Question after that is, will player news using the Reliant news van be tossed into the Versus lore? And they say the intentions are there, yes, but it's far, far too way ahead to say yes or not. But it will be great to see, and I've got a Reliant Mako, so I'm looking forward to getting some news stories out to you all. So the next question is to do with the lore of the Ninetales. Can we join them? The Ninetales are the pirate crew that we fight in Pirate Swarm, and he wants to keep quiet on this. The reason why they keep quiet on a lot of their lore stuff is because they want it to be revealed in the game rather than written down so everyone knows what it is already. We do currently do jobs for the Ninetales in Crusader. I can't think of anything specific, but as a pirate, that's what I think what you're doing is turning off these comrades for the Ninetales. So we'll have to wait and see when the verse comes live. Next question is, do you write lore for the flora and fauna behaviour? So that's the plants and wildlife on each planet. And he says, yes, it is coming along very, very well. The artists would generate generally the details and the behaviours of, but the lore team do help spawn ideas. They tend to work together a lot because the lore build up the ideas of the planet and then the designers work out what's possible and what would work. So they team up together and get it going. Next question is, how has martial arts evolved in the verse? Now, they did say a long while ago, that players can learn different martial arts from around the world, from around the verse, and from different races. They say it's heavily determined on design. They are waiting till Melee is completely online properly, and then they'll look into that later. But again, it's nothing too important, unfortunately. So the question after that is responding to distress beacons. And they say that they've talked about how important it is to help people in the verse. If you're in trouble in the middle of nowhere, there's kind of like a subtle rule of the road where you help people in need. And I do hope this transpires into the verse once it's live, where there will always be trolls, there will always be people causing trouble. Pirates, as long as, pirates are pirates, they can do what they like. But it would be nice that if you are on the road and someone is in distress, you help them. Obviously, it could be a trap, so maybe not. Anyway, next question is, will we see robot or drones doing basic functions on ships? And they say they do have repair drones. This was a stretch goal. In fact, I think I've earned myself one from a few years back. They may have cargo handling drones and floor cleaning drones, which would come in handy a lot. So final question, anyone in the lore like a Darth Vader character, sort of characters you learn to love? And he says there's no predicting how people will feel about a character, that is down to their personal experiences with them, but they do try to make every character full and interesting, so how you feel about them will be personal to you. That was the happy hour. Unfortunately, it was all questions and answers that were not really relevant at the moment, nothing that we can say for definite, but it's always nice to rehash on past thoughts. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's move on. So, on this week's Citizens of the Stars, the community guest was our Redacted Zone, the Noobifier with his no bullshit videos. Congratulations, sir. The dev in the Quantum Questions chair was Jake Ross, who is the producer of the Austin studio. And 3 things I took from this little interview which are worth mentioning. One of them is the pricing of items for the in-game economy. They have the first 20 commodities nailed. Everything from diamonds, malt liquor, processed food, and plutonium. The animations that they are doing next is the cockpit interactions for starting up your ship and the mission givers for the PU. And then finally, what he's looking forward to most from his studio is the kiosk shopping. So also this week, there was a Valentine's Day sale and free fly, which I think ends today. There was a Stoddard Research Center post, which is a poll for registered ship owners, which I'm yet to read, unfortunately. Bug Smashers this week looked into player movement requests, and finally, the latest jump point is available for all the RSI subscribers. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.